It was supposed to be the biggest, fanciest soccer stadium in the world. But now it sits abandoned in the slums of China. Ladies and gentlemen, what a sad, sad story this is, and you won't believe the recent update we've gotten on the Lotus Flower Design Stadium, the soccer stadium located in the Chinese city of Guangzhou. It says China's lotus-shaped soccer stadium will be the world's largest. That was the expectation, and guys, I gotta say, just looking at the renderings of this thing, I am fully in. I mean, you want to talk about the way this thing looks, the futuristic vision. I love all of it. Of course, there's multiple problems with what happened during the pandemic. Construction actually getting delayed. It getting like a quarter of the way built after it got completely redesigned. And it's crazy. The renderings got so much worse. China got crushed when it came to the pandemic, how they handled it, everything. But apparently, despite the pandemic, they were pushing forward with this lotus flower design. I'm sure most people remember the lotus flower from Percy Jackson, and they would eat it, and you know, it's like synthetic drugs or whatever. But yeah, what an amazing design this was. The biggest official soccer stadium in the world, narrowly beating out Camp Nou in terms of capacity at around right under, or I think right above 100,000. Camp Nou right now, before its renovation, is at 99K. So this would have been the biggest soccer stadium in the world. On April 16, this is back in 2020, a groundbreaking ceremony was held in the Chinese city of Guangzhou for a $1.7 billion soccer stadium in the shape of a lotus flower that is poised to become the world's biggest soccer stadium. ESPN reported that back in 2020 with a seating capacity of 100,000. It beats out Barcelona. The home team of the Blossom Coliseum will be the Guangzhou Evergrande, named for the Evergrande Real Estate Group. Evergrande Stadium will become a new world-class landmark comparable to the Sydney Opera House and the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, and an important symbol for Chinese football around the world. That, according to Exa Hanzu, who was the president of the Evergrande Group, according to ESPN. Construction was expected to finish by December of 2022. So guys, this article back in early 2020, if this thing actually happened, it already would have been built, it would have been done, it would have been hosting soccer games and the 2023 AFC Asian Cup. Could you imagine? They would never do this, not with the CCP, but imagine an NFL game getting played in this state, this flower. Oh, it would be amazing. It would be. In September of 2021, fast forward about a year after stalls in the construction, the Evergrande Group said that construction of the stadium would still happen despite the situation surrounding the group's financial situation. In November of 2021, 2 months later, the stadium was seized by the Chinese government and the CCP with plans to sell the incomplete stadium to another company or transfer ownership to the state-owned Guangzhou City Construction Investment Group. At that time, construction of the stadium was reportedly halted for at least 3 months already. So this is an absolute disaster now. It says Chinese authorities take over debt-laden Evergrande football stadium. That was a recent update that we got earlier this year. And so guys, you see the dream of the Lotus Flower Stadium. Honestly, if they actually built this, I would say it's the greatest stadium in history. I don't even care. It would be. Honestly, it would be. But they ended up actually rescinding and saying, no, that's not the official rendering. The Chinese said, we have to release a new rendering. And I mean, the new one looks like, this is like you're going from a 10 to about a 4 there. I mean, if you're one of those people in that city, that's a terrible new rendering, but this was certainly something that was killed by the pandemic. You can see the construction on it. That is the Evergrande Stadium right there. There's construction. But guys, the most recent update I have seen is from a stadium database. It's stadiumdb.com, and it says China. The end of the 100K seater dream in Gluzhou. Do you remember the vision of the world's largest football stadium in the world to be built in China? Forget it. The group has basically canceled the multi-billion-dollar project, and they've sold the land apparently for around $1 billion. So this is a complete disaster, and I don't know what's going on with this incomplete stadium. Are they going to scrap it? Is it just sitting there incomplete? It looks like it's about a quarter of the way built. Again, the original renderings for it, the lotus flower, oh my God, they need to take that rendering and do it in the United States. But when it comes to the actual stadium, they had to release other renderings, probably because they got crushed by the pandemic and they didn't have the money to make the actual Lotus Flower Stadium happen. So they built like its mentally challenged brother. You compare the two, it's not even close. The second one that they showed, it's okay. It's got like a nice silver tint to it. I'll give it that. But the flower is certainly what we were hoping for. The would-be 100,000 seater was set to be one of the most significant arenas during the 2023 AFC Asian Cup. Imagine if it hosted the Pro Bowl. It hosts the Pro Bowl. No, it just reminded me of that because it's like the AFC versus NFC, but no, there's like something called the AFC Asian Cup. I don't know. On May of 2022, the Asian Football Confederation announced that China was going to host the tournament due to circumstances caused by the pandemic and the country's policies. The latest news in the government has agreed to complete the project, but okay, so that was actually before. Now we know it's not happening, and it is pretty crazy that, this situation has turned out the way it has in China. And again, I don't know the actual update on this thing. Is it just sitting there empty? It's a quarter of the way built, I'm guessing. That's the thing with these projects in China. It's like they're $1 billion and they just don't have the funding to complete them. So this was certainly a great dream. If they would have been able to complete that Lotus Flower Stadium, that would have been... they should honestly save that design to try and get the Olympics. But you know what? I think China's gotten the Olympics long enough. Didn't they just have the Olympics in Beijing for like the 5th time? But someone who gets the Olympics, that should be their main stadium, or an NFL team should build a stadium that looks like that. That would be, maybe like a relocation team, and that has to do with a flower or something, and your nickname is like a blossom or something, and that's your stadium. That would be so cool. But I was actually doing some research on Chinese infrastructure and architecture. Apparently, China has a massive shortage of toilet paper. And we know how restrictive their government is and everything like that, and it's just real bad. They're like, when you go to the bathroom, if they have toilet paper, you have to show your face to the camera so you can be approved to take the actual toilet paper, because they'll just, people will just walk out of the bathroom with like 6 or 7 rolls of toilet paper, because apparently China, there's so many people, they have such a shortage of toilet paper, you have to bring your own toilet paper everywhere in China now. And that all relates to this whole situation with the this stadium. It really is sad because it's beautiful. And, when you redesign it and it looks like that, nobody wants that. That just looks like one of those European-type pieces of crap that they build every single year for one of those Euro FC teams or whatever it is. It just looks very bland. So very, very sad story there in China with this. Again, I would imagine if you looked it up on Google Earth, it would just be an abandoned construction site, unless, there's a new update and maybe they scrapped the stadium. I'm guessing it's just sitting there. I mean, if there's no money into it, there's no construction, they already said it's not happening, it's probably just sitting there, which is very sad and a giant waste of money. And apparently, the Evergrande Group lost about $1.2 billion in this entire project or something like that. They ended up selling part of it back to the government for $800 million. So they lost a lot of money, and they were able to recoup at least a little of it. So that is the situation surrounding the Lotus Flower Stadium. Definitely an unbelievable design. I really wish, there would be architects in the United States that would really be inspired by something like this, because we really need to be striving to reach a higher level. I mean, you take a look at the Tennessee Titans' new stadium compared to this, it's a piece of crap, but I don't know. Maybe they just don't. I believe how much did this stadium cost? In USD, I'm not sure. It might be like 1.7 USD, because think about SoFi Stadium. It cost $5 billion. I still don't know how that's possible. I understand they're developing a whole complex in SoFi. I get that. But it's just a lot of money. You compare it to like Allegiant costing $2 billion. $3 billion less dollars for Vegas's new stadium than LA's. And I know LA hosts everything. They already hosted the Super Bowl. They already hosted the College Football National Championship. But the Lotus Flower, I have to give the Chinese credit. You have to listen. None of us like communism, but we give them credit. This is a great design. It is. It's a great design. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.